Happy holidays, everybody, and Tony here with my tribute to the Animaniacs Christmas specials. 'Twas the Day Before Christmas, Jingle Boo, The Great Wackarati, The Holiday Concert, A Christmas Plots, Little Drummer Warners, The 12 Days of Christmas, The Christmas Tree, Noel, and even Yakko's Universe, A Gift of Gold, Nighty Night Tune, and Toy Shop Terror, which were released between September 13, 1993 and April 25, 1998. 8 out of these 12 episodes were even compiled and released to VHS as Hello Holidays. These episodes were directed by the likes of Rusty Mills, Greg Reyna, Jeffrey DeGrandis, Alfred Jimeno, Leonard Robinson, Charles Visser, Mike Milo, and Michael Gerard, and they were written by the likes of Tom Ruegger, who was also the show's creator, Randy Rogel, Diana Oliver, Nicholas Hollander, Earl Kress, Nick Dubois, and Kevin Hobbs. I am very proud to consider Animaniacs as one of my most favorite cartoons of all time, as well as a cartoon that I'm proud to say is one of the best I've ever seen. It totally stands up there with the likes of Courage the Cowardly Dog, Samurai Jack, Hey Arnold, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Teen Titans, Adventure Time, Fillmore, Justice League, X-Men Evolution, Regular Show, and Steven Universe, just to name a few of the many cartoons I enjoy to this very day. Animaniacs managed to find something extremely special in my heart thanks to its masterful usage of combining humor with a great amount of satire, as well as its masterful usage of pop culture references, and of course, its colorful cast of characters. You can never ever go wrong with Yakko singing about the different countries of the world and the continents that they're in. You can never ever skip out on a beat when Wakko sings about all the states of the United States of America. And who can ever forget a lot of these classic jokes whenever they see Hello Nurse coming over and they greet her by saying, "Hello Nurse!" And even the brain schemes to take over the world, as well as the pigeons acting like characters out of The Godfather. And let us not forget about the charming duo found in Rita the Cat and Runt the Dog, and even a lot of the other human characters, such as Dr. Scratch and Sniff, the CEO of Warner, Mr. Plotz, as well as Ralph the security guard. And lest I even forget about Slappy the squirrel alongside her nephew Skippy. Those two were also just as fantastic. Buttons and Mindy were also nice, but they could never ever hold a candle to the likes of Yakko, Wakko, and Dot, as well as Slappy the Squirrel and Skippy. The Warner Brothers, as well as Slappy the Squirrel and Skippy, are my most favorite characters of Animaniacs. When you combine Yakko's, Wakko's, and Dot's fun and absolutely balls to the wall brand of humor, peppered in with a lot of satire, sass, charm, intelligence, wit, and a lot of really exciting moments to come, as well as Slappy the Squirrel being such a deadpan snarker who also uses revenge as a means to fight back, you definitely have at your arsenal a show that manages to stand the test of time for many years. And in light of the recent reboot that came out on Hulu this year, I thought it would be nice to not only look at the Christmas specials themselves, but also 4 of the episodes that may not have that 100% holiday spirit on there, but are quite reminiscent of that, even to the point where one of the episodes was released alongside the 3 aforementioned holiday specials. And before I tackle the Christmas specials themselves, a few words about why I definitely enjoyed the likes of Nighty Night Tune, A Gift of Gold, Yakko's Universe, and Toy Shop Terror. Going to Nighty Night Tune, this was a sweet and lovely poem narrated by the one and only Jim Cummings to show what the Animaniacs characters do before they go to sleep, let alone travel to the land of Nod. And I thought that this was a sweet and really gentle short, which managed to leave me with a lot of pleasant feelings inside me. A Gift of Gold managed to make me feel for a sentient piece of gold wrapper, especially when she is the object of jealousy from the other wrappers in the store, and even when she gets opened up by Mindy, who, mind you, is actually quite tolerable in this episode, and even to her journey of getting out from their house to flying all over San Francisco, and even ending up with a poor gentleman who uses her as a means to wrap up his gift that he was going to give for his son. And I thought that the ending was really touching, and it was able to make me feel for this sentient gold wrapper. And that's saying something. Yakko's universe may be originally set in winter, but throughout the duration of his song, he's also able to explain the various planets, the galaxies, and just how magnificent our wonderful world really is. And Rob Paulson's vocal performance as Yakko, combined with Jess Harnell's Wacko and Tress MacNeille's Dot, managed to make this song really memorable, and it was an absolutely touching and quite informative song to make me really interested in just how amazing this world really is. And Toy Shop Terror was my most favorite because of the fun I was able to have with Yakko, Wacko, and Dot when they come face to face with the toy maker's robot guard, and they foil it in the best way they can. And what's the greatest facet about this particular short is that most of it is pantomime until the very end, where Yakko ends up uttering a few sentences and Dot follows alongside him, thus stating that the toy maker's robot guard wasn't really the safest toy they would ever play with, and Dot says that she wants a doll next time. Now that those are out of the way, let's get on to what I thought about the main Christmas specials, ranging from the one I really, really like to the one I loved the most. Starting off with the one I did enjoy, I personally enjoyed Noel. What was so fun about this song was that it was a play on the word Noel. And if you know French, you'll automatically understand that Christmas in French is Noel. And this song managed to have a lot of fun with that particular word, as Wacko is trying to write a letter to Santa, but not being the brightest of the trio, ends up spelling Santla. So Yakko ends up reminding him in a very friendly way that Santa is spelled without an L. So there is no L in Santa. And it even manages to extend to Wacko and Dot playing Jack and Jill, but there is no well. Cut to Captain Ahab and his ship, and he's trying to find Moby Dick, but the opposing sailors state that there is no whale. And the song ends with the Warner siblings singing not only Noel, but since they can't find another better word to say Merry Christmas, they would even say, oh well. So this was definitely a very cute and fun song, which managed to play with that particular lexeme to the greatest of its abilities. And speaking of this particular lexeme, Noel, aside from its French counterpart of Christmas, it also means a Christmas carol. So that's another word you can use for whenever you associate Christmas carols. Then we have the Christmas tree, in which Slappy the squirrel is utterly annoyed at all the happenings going on in Rockefeller Center. What with all the Christmas carolers singing and her home being decorated as a Christmas tree being placed in that particular spot, as well as the general irritation that she has felt throughout the holidays. It also comes to a head where she gets revenge on the CEO thus placing his home in the middle of New York City, and Slappy managed to use her sass, her sarcasm, and her deadpan snarkiness the only way she knows how, by striking vengeance upon those who have wronged her. And it's also a firm reminder that you do not ever want to cross her path, which is also why Slappy the Squirrel is one of my most favorite Animaniacs characters of all time, even to the point where she stands toe-to-toe with the Warner siblings. And speaking of the Warner siblings, they even have a cameo at the very end telling the carolers to shut up. Jingle Boo was also quite fun, as it features Chicken Boo dressed up as Santa, and what was so hilarious about this particular Christmas special was that the first two kids still believe that it's Santa. Unfortunately, Colin already knows that it's not Santa, it's actually a giant chicken. The disguise ends up being revealed that Santa Claus was none other than the giant chicken, Chicken Boo, which leaves every single kid traumatized, but at least there was a happy ending for Chicken Boo, as after he ends up being kicked out of the mall, he ends up landing on Santa's sleigh, where he will be happy alongside him. The main star of this episode is without a doubt Chicken Boo, as even though he barely says anything and his only expression are those huge eyes, he's still quite a fun character to watch, especially considering how the other characters around him react. The Great Wackarati, the holiday concert, was fun, and even more fun, as we get to see Wacko, or the Great Wackarati, belching to the tune of Jingle Bells with Yakko on the piano. And in order to supplement that belching, we even had Dot to supply him with some fizzy pop, thus letting all that gas out of his mouth. And by the time he's finished, he says, "Excuse me," as roses end up being thrown at him. You want even more musical festive fun? Then look no further than the 12 Days of Christmas sung by a little blue bird. And you might think that this little blue bird might have the chirpings of a coloratura soprano, when in actuality, he has the screaming and the screeching of a hyperactive kid, which makes this even more hilarious and almost unexpected. And the fact that this little blue bird keeps on screaming turtle doves, turtle doves, turtle doves in each of the 12 entries was just so hilarious. I was just rolling on the floor with laughter whenever this little blue bird just opened his mouth to sing the 12 Days of Christmas, only to include each of these entries as turtle doves. Therefore, this was memorable in the best possible way in my book. Coming in with a bronze medal is "'Twas the Day Before Christmas," which is the Animaniacs version of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," told by Slappy the Squirrel when she was reading this to her nephew Skippy. And this involves our favorite Warner siblings, as well as Dr. Scratch and Sniff, Mr. Plotz, Hello Nurse, Rita, Runt, Ralph the security guard, Pinky and the Brain, the two hippos, the Goodfellas pigeons, and every single Californian denizen, alongside a cameo via Michael Keaton as Batman's Batmobile in this version of the classic Christmas poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Everyone joins in the fun of saying all these rhymes, and the biggest highlight for me was seeing Ralph the security guard as Santa Claus, especially when he has his sleigh driven by the Goodfellas pigeons. Now that was a lot of fun, as well as the three Warner siblings checking out if Ralph the security guard was really Santa. I mean, obviously he's got that nice pot belly and that large frame, so they think he was Santa Claus. And this particular version of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" ends with the real Santa Claus greeting all the denizens of Warner Studios a very Merry Christmas. And the episode further ends with Skippy finishing the story, Slappy fast asleep, and just when Skippy is about to fall asleep, he ends up waking up again to see what Santa has to give him. Coming up on the podium with the silver medal was A Christmas Plots, which is the Animaniacs version of A Christmas Carol. And this was also the one I enjoyed the most because we get to see the Christmas Carol told in the style of Animaniacs. And there was no better character to fit Scrooge rather than the CEO of Warner himself, Mr. Thaddeus Plots, squeezing in a plot in which he fires Ralph the security guard, as well as having Slappy the squirrel on board as Marley. And let's also not forget about Wacko being the ghost of Christmas past, Dot being the ghost of Christmas present, and Yakko being the ghost of Christmas future. And in terms of Wacko as the ghost of Christmas past, he also shows Mr. Plots that when he was a kid, he used to be such a demanding brat, and even when he came into his young adult years, he was also self-entitled and just as rotten. Then came Dot, especially when she uses her title as a play on words. Present, meaning this is now, and present because she's also wrapped in a Christmas gift. And she even shows him the consequences of his current actions, especially what has been happening in Ralph's family, with Ralph Jr. resenting the absolute heck out of Mr. Plots, thus stating that he cannot wait to take over his company when he grows up. Cue Yakko as the ghost of Christmas future, who instead of being this ominous and creepy figure, ends up coming out of that huge robe with spats and a very spiffy suit, complete with a very catchy musical number, accompanied by dancing showgirls. He even shows what his future would look like. And no, in this version, Mr. Plots is not dead. Instead, he was demoted to being a security guard, while Ralph Jr. ended up taking the reins of Warner Studios as the CEO. Waking up from this dream has made him realize that Mr. Plots was rotten to not only Ralph, but everyone around him, especially since the Warner siblings remind him that it's Christmas and he knows what to do. Spread that holiday cheer to Ralph and his family, as well as receiving a huge fruitcake from the Warner siblings. In fact, fruitcake was also the very food that he could not stand having, but after being visited by the Warner siblings as the three Christmas ghosts, he ended up having a change of heart to this particular Christmas delicacy. So with a combination of laughs as well as a loving homage to Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, A Christmas Plots managed to receive the silver medal as one of my most favorite Animaniacs Christmas specials of all time. But standing perched atop the medal podium, obtaining the gold medal as well as the title of my most favorite Animaniacs Christmas special of all time is none other than Little Drummer Warner's, which is essentially a holiday medley centered around the birth of Jesus, starting off with Silent Night and then transitioning to a humorous take on We Three Kings, with Yakko, Wacko, and Dot being dressed as shepherds, especially since Wacko has a drum of his own. Oh Little Town of Bethlehem, when these three Warner siblings ended up arriving to the manger. Away in a Manger, and finally The Little Drummer Boy, which also had its variations involving jazz and a little bit of swing added into the mix. And let's also not forget about the more serious surprise of We Three Kings, though with Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar being absolutely jolly as they can be. And they even partake in this display of festive joy when the Warner siblings sing Little Drummer Boy to the newborn Jesus. Overall, Little Drummer Warner's was a huge combination of touching, absolutely gorgeous, thanks to the musical talents provided, as well as some really fun takes to certain Christmas songs. Ergo, it managed to combine heart, hilarity, and absolute festive joy, which is why Little Drummer Warner's stands tall as my number one favorite Animaniacs Christmas special of all time. And to me, these Christmas episodes are why I really love Animaniacs. It's colorful characters, it's witty, sharp, satirical, and absolutely humorous writing, as well as all of the wonderful references I was able to spot in this particular cartoon made it all the more worthwhile watching. And it also says something when you have such amazing talents such as Rob Paulson as Yakko, Jess Harnell as Wacko, Tress MacNeille as Dot, Sherry Stoner as Slappy the Squirrel, and Nathan Rugger as Skippy, giving exceptional vocal performances. And I cannot forget about the other voice actors involved in this, such as Maurice LaMarche and Jim Cummings. The voice actors were what made their characters come to life, and for that, I salute each and every voice actor, creative talent, and creative higher up in charge of making this iconic cartoon, especially engendered in these wonderful holiday specials. If you are hankering for a jolly good time with Animaniacs, especially in this festive season, I can safely and utterly recommend Little Drummer Warner's A Christmas Plots and 'Twas the Day Before Christmas as my top 3 Christmas specials as my recommendations to you guys. Who knows, maybe you also have recommendations from these Christmas specials that you also like, and I would also love to hear each and every one of them. All tastes aside, I definitely enjoyed the ride from each of these Animaniacs holiday specials. They were fun, they were witty, they had heart, and they spoke to me on so many levels to the point where I could feel really good about myself every time I tune into Animaniacs. And for those of you who caught these Christmas specials from Animaniacs, what did you think of it? Did you really love the likes of Little Drummer Warner's A Christmas Plots and or 'Twas the Day Before Christmas? Was there a Christmas special that you really loved from Animaniacs that you feel is your personal favorite? Or did you feel like one of these Christmas specials didn't really resonate with you? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's it for my tribute to the Animaniacs Christmas specials. Tune in much later where I do a tribute to A Pinky and the Brain Christmas from, of course, Pinky and the Brain. So until then, happy holidays, everybody!